The Latin American market is very important, it's growing. And if you tell me, for example, worldwide actually, it's one of the most important markets for us. The growth potential is big in Latin America. There is a 6 trillion market there. There is a huge middle class. There are new developments, a new leadership.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Are we ready for logistics, how to make life easier for all of you? This is our wonderful panel that we have in place. Gentlemen, please join me. Sit down. Thank you so much. I'd like you to meet all of our colleagues here today. We have the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Mastercard with us. Mauricio, forgive me, I'm going back to front here. Paulo Fernandes. Paulo, thank you so much for being with us. From Dubai Trade, UAE, we have the Chief Executive Officer, Mahmood Al-Bastaki. Mahmood, great to see you. And from Protekto Americas from Colombia, we're delighted to be joined with Mauricio Lloreda. Mauricio is the CEO of Protekto. So thank you so much. And we're really going to be looking at something I know that concerns each and every one of you is the supply chain. How can we make your life better? These gentlemen have the answers this morning. This is what it's all about. Mauricio, I'd like to begin with you, if I may, and really we're looking at, the work that you do in this field, a technology company, hopefully providing the solutions, a lot of research and development, of course, but ultimately it's about how can technology make life easier, simpler, how can it make life better when it comes to the supply chain?
What we tried to do, and I think we've achieved, is to exchange uncertainties for digital certainties. If you look into the global scale, if you look into handling a container to a total stranger that's taking it from your plant and all the way across the sea to another point on Earth, basically what you have in absence of technology is an act of faith. You're hoping that it will get there, and via contracts, you're trying to make sure that everyone hopes the same that you do.
Yeah, you forget about that, yes. There are strangers moving in and out of your ports.
Of course. And then with technology, what we've managed to do is to change all these expectations and hopes into digital certainties. So we developed a platform, nowadays it's more popular to call it a blockchain. And actually, it does permit for you to see at any point in time and in the geography where something is and how it is. So say that you're taking coffee out of Colombia, such a precious cargo to all of us. So we can look it up at the plantation and take it all the way to the port, and from there control its humidity, its temperature, its whereabouts, all the way to Japan or Denmark or any other place on Earth. That's for perishables, and for dry cargo as well. So the main impact of blockchains are, of course, on the costs. You bring down costs of insurance policies, which is a key thing there. And then you reduce times and you force everyone to be competent and diligent. And by this competition, you create virtuous circles where information is key and you can access it from anywhere in the world. So efficiency, lowering cost, and being in the know with information you can act upon. I think that makes a difference.
Absolutely, and I think it's essential too for how anybody is going to efficiently run their business as well, because once they can track everything. Mahmood, continuing on that, you've been in this business for a while, and where do you, when you look at the global supply chain, how have things changed, perhaps in the last 5 years, because they're constantly changing and evolving, but I think we've seen a rapid shift in the last 5 years.
Right. The last couple of years, we have witnessed somehow that's openly announced like a financial crisis. It's been dipped and it's been hitting many trading hubs in the world. Things are not the same as before. People are not consuming like it was before. So this is affecting the trading hubs. Second, the geopolitical and political stability in many countries. Lately, just a couple of days ago, in Sudan is having a big problems now. Algeria having problems in the Middle East. As you know, in the Latin America, Venezuela have problems. These things affect the trading hubs and the supply chain and the goods and cargo movement. Number three, in the ocean freight, there was a big shift of consolidation of shipping lines. They're getting together, they're making alliances, and this affects the port of calls. Some ports will benefit, some ports will be disadvantaged to them. You see a lot of consolidation. What happened into the IT industries in the early millennium is happening exactly the same to the shipping lines in the last 2-3 years. Number four, Uber, OBOR, One Belt, One Road. It's playing a big role in shifting attention from certain ports to new ports. The rise of dry ports, because along the side, the land transport of train, there will be a lot of new emergence of new ports and port station. So this is affecting the supply chain. Government policies. We've seen some government policies, either they facilitate trade or they suffocate trade. Facilitating trade means they do free trade agreements, they remove the red tapes, the frictions and the boundaries of the borders. The suffocation part comes when you impose trade tariffs. Also, the technology platforms and improvements that happens in the last 2-3 years in the cargo movement, the blockchain, the AI, the robotics and the logistics, and also the development, the improvement in the vessels and mega vessels and faster trains. The last two things that's happening in the supply chain, the business model innovation, the platforms economies such as Amazon, Alibaba, and even Uber having driverless cars. And the last one, the change of the trade routes. As conventionally we know that's been always east to west. Today you can see north-north trade, you can see south-south trade. So the whole supply chain has been affected, whether you are a port, you are a free zone, or you are a trading hub.
There is, so there's been a lot going on, and people have to think differently, react differently, and probably run their business a bit differently too.
Absolutely.
Because they're just going to get lost and left behind. This is not a business. You want to be getting lost and left behind for sure.
Right.
We'll talk more detail about that. Paulo, when we look at your role within the mix of this, and we look at my microphone, how are we doing, guys? Hello? It's okay. All right, it's sounding a little peculiar. Mastercard now, it does me fine when I go shopping and all of that too, and it's seen many of us around the world. It's given us a lot of safety and protection and everything. But talk to me about where Mastercard fits into logistics at the moment. Why is this so important? And tell me the role that you're playing within there.
Thank you, and good morning, and thank you for the IDB and Dubai Chamber of Commerce for having us here. So I use a very simple thing. In the fintech industry, Amazon is not a river, Apple is not a fruit, and Mastercard is not a card company. What we are is a fintech company that basically transacts or moves data from one point to the other. What we do today is we basically manage, just give you an idea, 43 billion instructions a second on our network. And we connect 210 countries across the world in 150 different currencies. Now think about that. What is the whole objective of supply chain? It's three things. You got to connect the goods, the information, and the payment. And at the end of the day, that's why we're here. We want to get paid. That is a key challenge that we have. And one of the key challenges that as we speak to global trade, as we speak to shippers, as we speak to the key challenges are basically like, for instance, a consignment. Some thoughts here can involve up to 25 different parties, generate up to 30 to 40 different documents, rekeying the data 60 to 70% at least once, and digital islands. So basically all these silos across the world. So there's a lack of information and specifically lack of visibility into the supply chain. Yesterday, the CEO of the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, the Honorable Hamad Bunami, indicated that document processing accounts as much as 20% of trade costs. That's where we come in. We want to increase the efficiency of moving containers from one point to the other. I think that that's one of the key things that ports are finding, is that not only competition between the ports as to where the business should go, but also the competition from disruptors that are coming into the business. You know, Mahmood, you mentioned, Uber-like
Yes.
type of applications. There's companies moving in there that basically are going to change the business. You know, you can go online and I'm not going to name the company, but about 3 weeks ago, they got a $1 billion round of VC funding, valued at $3.5 billion. This company is basically looking to become the iOS of global freight. What that means is that shipping lines and ports become commodities. They are able to direct the ships wherever they go. So increased efficiency basically can be done via the increased efficiency of operations via payment. We carry that data. We carry the data and we link it to the payment. That's what we do in the B2B electronic commerce world.
How fascinating. A lot there too that I think many people probably didn't really realize. So you're obviously keeping busy on all sides. Now, we'd love to get you involved in this. You know, many of I think the information that we're going to hear will be very, very relevant. So if you want to send me any question here on the iPad, please, from your app, by all means. Or if you just want to do old-fashioned stand up and ask a question, I'm absolutely thrilled to take that. So there are microphones on either side. So just please, if you feel like engaging with our panel here and asking a question, because I know I haven't been seeing too much interaction coming from the audience. So let's do it today. We've only got a few panels left, a few sessions, and we'd love to hear what's on your mind as well, because they can certainly answer here. Mauricio, talk to me a little bit about so many diverse players in this area too, particularly in logistics. How can you bring them all together?
Well, the bringing together of players around the world, it's a responsibility of the Internet of Things, as I say it. Soon everything will be connected, and there we can't stop looking into things like this. None of the tools I work with today existed when I was doing my MBA.
Yes.
None existed when I was doing my first or second master's degree. Most of them are really new and newly created. When I look to what my daughter is doing, what she's dreaming of, I can't stop but thinking that innovation is taking place faster and faster each time. So when I visited recently Dubai, I was amazed by a concept they have there that I hadn't seen anywhere else, which is the Museum of History.
Yes.
So this is a concept where they dream of something, they work on it to make it happen, and they put it in the past as an achievement. Who else thinks of that but somebody that has the vision of integration and of where it wants to be tomorrow? So that's a point that I think is key to keep in mind. And one more thing that we should keep in mind is that currently, as we speak, in the time we have spoken, one of these mega processors, mega fast processors from Google or Amazon, could have absorbed and processed all the knowledge that's available to humankind and could store it and could do stuff with it. So most of what we're doing now that takes time and brain power will be done by artificial intelligence in the near future. So automation will happen, and again, I bring the case of Dubai. When I looked into their port, they have this huge area where they're trading at a speed that I haven't seen even in European ports, and is fully automated. So how long until robots take place of it with artificial intelligence and integrate the whole thing, the information that Mastercard's fintech is going about, the work that Mr. Al-Baktani is talking about on integrating things. So I guess it's the internet, the wireless, the wired, and the algorithms that will run behind it that will make it possible.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Mahmood, tell me, how has technology changed your life and your job and the business in the last few years?
Well, technology is my main job actually in DP World, putting solutions that will ease the process of cargo movement. And we look at it holistically from a customer's point of view. When I say customers, I'm talking about the trader, the importer, because at the end, as a port, in the conventional way, our main customers was always the shipping line. But now, the new way of looking at things, your end customers is everybody in the supply chain. We look at the customer's customers, and the supplier, and the supplier's supplier. So our main customers are the importer-exporters, are the freight forwarders, are the consolidators, are the free zone operators, are the trucking company, and anybody who has to deal with the port. So we are putting technologies through end-to-end process for the life of that trader. When they deal with that port, should be seamless, should be very easily integrated, should be less steps, should be faster, the visibility should be there. The whole thing should be done in some clicks. So that technology has really changed the way we do business. Port has been a point of aspiration for many national, multinational companies. We see a lot of companies moving their headquarters. I give you a good example in Dubai. HP, they moved their distribution center from Europe to Dubai 10 years ago. Lately, I don't know if you heard the news, Siemens decided to move their global headquarters of logistics from Germany to Dubai in the site of Dubai Expo. That tells you when these companies make decisions such as this, they look at certain things. They look at fast processing, they look at the infrastructure, they look at visibility, ease, tolerance, stability, financial. So there are a lot of things that technology has helped these companies to move, to take their decisions, to make such a big decisions to move their operations from their country to your hub. Also in Panama, a lot of companies are residing in Panama because of ease of doing things and the convenience given to the customers.
Exciting times, and it just keeps moving and changing, so you really have to keep on top of it as well.
Right.
You know, Paulo, talk to us, give us a bit of a case study, I suppose, and the best one, obviously, that would be relevant to all of us too is, you know, what's going on with Dubai, because this has been, you know, particularly what you have, you know, one of the many projects that you're working on too, but one certainly more relevant here and can help us to understand.
I can actually give 3 just relevant cases to touch on. So let's look at blockchain. You know, blockchain, what it is, and Mauricio, see if you agree with me, is a smart contract that basically certain actions take place and a payment has to be triggered. Along the way, what I mean by this is as the ship, you know, goods get on ship, release 20% of payment. Goods in the warehouse, release 30% of their payment. Those triggers basically come into our network, and our network then executes the payment. So that's how we link into the blockchain. To us, we call it proof of provenance, is actually one of the key initiatives we have on. We also are working with terminal operators in a variety of things, from digitizing the payments of how shippers pay either the truckers that basically are going in, how the shippers actually pay for their terminal fees today. You know, there's paperwork involved, there's cash involved. How do we digitize that so that the data and the payment flow together so that they can be integrated and reconciled much quicker? And you know, a third thing is alternatives to letters of credit. I understand that this is actually something that is being requested here within Panama, is today as the ships go through the locks within the Panama Canal, you know, letters of credit are being requested from the shipping companies, and we've been asked to look at alternatives as to how can we get through the letter of credit, something that's, you know, been around for quite a few years, and how can we come up with new technology to overcome that? Because if you think about it, a letter of credit is not a payment, it's simply a guarantee. It's basically me saying to you, I'm good for this money. The payment still has to go through another means. What we're looking at is how do you give the guarantee and the payment at the same time? Very similar to when you check into a hotel. When you check into a hotel, you know, they take a deposit from you, I don't know, for $200. That's what we call a pre-auth. And then when you check out, that's when the whole transaction goes through. Think about that within the shipping industry where, you know, the guarantee is upfront and then the settlement comes through earlier. So
and this builds in confidence too on both sides.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. There has to be a guarantee. There has to be that I'm basically guaranteed as to who I'm paying, and I as the seller am being guaranteed that those funds are going to be in my account whatever happens. So just a very key point, some proof points. So just using some case studies, though, the US government, that's the General Services Administration, by using electronic payments provided by Mastercard, they increase the process efficiencies within the electronic accounts payable by decreasing transaction costs by 76%. It reduced cycle times of the average transaction within the procurement of the US government from 7.2 days to 4.9 days, a 72% reduction, savings to the taxpayer. So when I hear that, the highest cost within the, the freight world is the processing of the documentation and payment, I definitely see there is a sweet spot where we can actually improve the efficiency of the payment itself.
Indeed, yes. Again, anytime anybody wants a question, please, by all means, just let us know here. Mauricio, coming back to blockchain, and we hear this, in every area, and I think, as you say, so much wasn't invented, back while you were studying this. So it's a constant time to learn. But this sometimes is perhaps a conservative industry. I mean, is the industry shifting quick enough, the mentality therein, the education of the workers? I mean, do we have a workforce ready to take on, like some of the great work that you're doing, to make sure that ultimately efficiency is delivered on moving goods and services around the world? Because it's a very physical, shifting of what the logistics and the supply chain is doing. So are we prepared for it, and in different areas?
Great question. I think the easy answer to it is that people around the world want to have things made easier at work, at home, at any daily tasks. So if you think of the penetration that the landlines had back in the 20s, and you compare it to the penetration of cellular lines, while one was very slow because of the physical matters that took place, digital communications are very fast because they happen over the air. And people are more prone to using digital information. As we speak, a lot of people are looking into their cell phones. As we all did when we were
out
out
on your
there.
phones. They're not. They're doing a deal.
God
They're doing a
forbid.
deal. They're checking their ships right now.
Yeah, God
Their
forbid.
supply chain.
Paying with a Mastercard.
Okay,
So-
but there we go.
I like to see blockchains, Internet of Things, as a binocular. It's the extension of our senses. So as Mr. Al-Bakti is saying, as Mr. Fernandes is saying, we're all trying to integrate different things to make lives simpler. And we do it through different ways. So if I can give you access to your cargo on your cell phone, which is probably what gentlemen and ladies are doing here,
Okay,
watching their
we
cargoes
let them
over a
away with it
platform,
today.
then you'll be using it and you'll accept it and you will be more demanding on the provider of this service. And that again creates a virtuous cycle, because you're listening to your clients and you're saying, hey, I have to correct this, I have to make this faster, smaller, simpler. At the end of the day, that's where we're going.
And what about the security that's built in on that? And I'll bring you both in on this too, because it's wonderful that we're all operating digitally and mobility is making our lives a lot easier, but it's also making it a lot easier for the cyber bullies that are out there and the cyber world of pirating. That's a whole different world when it comes to this industry.
Again, great question. I'll talk about the physical world. Like Colombia has a solid reputation for being a very unsafe country. Now that we've signed a peace treaty, is improving. In terms of controlling cargoes on the roads, on the air, on the sea, we have dropped the thievery of containers in almost 100%, and we have reduced the cost of protecting the cargo in 90% by doing it with electronic escorts. So that's a digital device and platform going with a straight hard consequences on the physical world and affecting as a diagonal the whole industry. So that's one point where you can operate the security. And in terms of the cybersecurity, that's what you mean in terms of having firewalls and working in the cloud. For instance, now in Colombia we have Amazon Web Services and we have Google, and we have a long and wide presence and very solid engineering knowledge to protect our system. So we've had hundreds of thousands of attacks on our servers, and so far we've been successful at not losing signal just once. We've operated these servers for 20 years, a new generation for 10 years, and now we're in the cloud. So again, virtuous cycles that begin by thinking of the future, anticipating what might come next, and working towards it while having your feet on the ground and working for what you have today.
Please, no, come in on this, Mahmood. I wasn't forgetting you. To follow up on this, or?
Yes.
Yes, please.
See, I would like to say the new millennials are dictating the rules on anything we do in life. People, our children who are hooked to Snapchat, Instagram, whom they've been called, they are used to instant gratification. They need everything instantly, on time, speed, real time. This is also affecting our business because the old days where you are locked into a contract with the shipping line, you cannot change. Nowadays, people want to change, they want to try, they want to get their trucks immediately, they want to get their warehouse now.
Yes.
They don't want to wait, they want to insure their cargo in the middle of the night. So these things are changing the logistics paradigm. So we have to all, being part of the supply chain, being a port operator, being government agency, being customs authority, we should also adapt. Otherwise, I mean, even the employees that we hire, you know, they have expectation that things are easy. But in our business of ocean freight, we have a legacy of paper.
Of course.
Which is
yes.
this bill of lading, still we are talking about paper. You talked about security. I want to just highlight the security thing. The paper is much easier to be tampered with and to play with and to have fraudulent transactions, much more than digital.
Right.
Okay, you will say cyber attacks, security. I would say to you, I've been into this industry for the last 25 years. There is nothing 100% secured. Nothing. Even Pentagon was hacked, if we are talking about security. But you can make it as much as high secured and always keep the security stack always updated, because it's a war between the good and evil. Evil is trying to bypass the system by trying to attack and do all these hackings. On the other side, the good part, you should update your security and close the loopholes for being attacked and vulnerable to attack. So it's a war, it's an ongoing war. But you should always be updated, you should always have the latest trend, blockchain. The main benefit of blockchain is security. They are claiming that it cannot be hacked, because you are not hacking one computer. You are talking about thousands and thousands of networks distributed all over the world. To hack that, it requires a super machines to hack that. That's why blockchain plays a big role in security rather than doing other things, eliminating papers and smart contracts and other things. But security is the main driver for blockchain, why it came to existence.
And this, of course, from three of us up here on the stage, then we all got some paper here. We're not a great example at the moment, are we, in terms of going digital?
One is okay.
One is okay. I'm worse. I have two, and then you have more than the rest of us. But come on to this, because this is an area particularly.
And I'm a technology company.
No, but on the payment side, I mean, ultimately, this is where people want their payment to be secure. They want to make sure they can buy their goods. They want to make sure that this money is going to reach it.
Absolutely.
So the security that you've put in place over the years, you must have learned from this, and how more vital than ever is this at the moment?
So it's absolutely the key value proposition is the secure payment and the guarantee of payment. So just a couple of examples here, going back to Mauricio, how is AI being used? So if you think about what's happening today in the freight forwarding world, that it's being totally disrupted by AI. So if I'm a customer, go online, and instead of me phoning different freight forwarders, I can go online, get an electronic freight forwarder that uses AI to give me the most efficient and cheapest route from point A to point B. So if I want to go from Caucedo to Hamburg, what are the 5 options? That's all being run by AI. The payment then is made, then how do I simplify this? Instead of me providing, and think about this, how it works today is that once I've resolved that, I've got to give you my bank account details.
Yes.
How safe is that? And then somebody else has now got access to my bank account details. What we do is look at that differently, using technology where we call a virtual card number, which is essentially a digital ID, a tokenized number that is used for a specific one-time transaction, so that that number is linked to an invoice or a bill of lading, and once that transaction has occurred, that number disappears. So it's only used per transaction. That is how we are looking, ahead at digital security. We are digital by default. This is our bread and butter. And so that to us, specifically, this is a different environment. This is not a consumer environment that you and I use our credit cards. This is a B2B space where cards are not used. This is basically virtual accounts that uses tokenized technology and single-use account numbers linked to a simple transaction that then basically, once the transaction is settled, the account disappears, cannot be used again, and therefore cannot be corrupted.
So there is it's almost another layer of security in there, just to make sure. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I want to maybe start to gather your closing thoughts on this. And Mauricio, when you look at the pace of change that's happened in here, how can different hubs in the world, how can they help each other? How can, different ports learn from each other, different, logistic parks, all of that stuff? Because we look at the model in Dubai, will it work in every other area? Will the model here in Panama work elsewhere? What can we learn from each other to make sure that the whole kind of concept of logistics supply chain actually runs a lot more smoother for everybody? Because there's no point in each area reinventing the wheel, basically.
Thanks, Eithne. Well, brings me to the point I wanted to make first. Is these kind of events the kind of thing that are worth our while? I
And that knowledge sharing, exactly.
From my own experience, the last 2 days I've learned so much from so many different people, from so many different walks of life.
Yes.
So I want to thank the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Al Ghurair, Mr. Hamad, Hassan, and the other friends, of course, Fabrizio and Luis Alberto from the IDB, for this great opportunity. Is amazing. Yeah. Which brings me to the second point. I was a bit surprised when Dubai announced the GBF 2019 in Panama, because of all the Latin American countries, Panama is extremely important as a hub, but in terms of population, it's a small country. In terms
what
of
were
the
you
market,
hoping we'd come to Colombia? Maybe the next one.
Oh, Cartagena, please. And then I think it was Hassan or Omar who made me realize how similar these countries are. So how Dubai has created a humongous hub that's so agile and automatic and state-of-the-art and looking into the day after tomorrow. And Panama has done, and President Varela especially, has committed to our friends from Dubai and China and are building huge things. I learned of a logistics park of 160 hectares, which is large enough to surprise anyone, building huge port, building more cranes and stuff. So that's the second thing, like to learn from two masters of innovation in logistics that brings to all of us who are present here. And then among us, we share experiences. That's a key thing. And then I'll go back to the Internet of Things. Right now, we can access so much information that we couldn't even process. Yes. So to be able to develop usable information, actual information, and to create and rely on machines that will provide that for us, I think are keys to generate integration, to bring down costs, to improve safety, to bring things like insurance policies down, trucking costs. Mm-hmm. And when we are all connected, and social responsibility is a key driver in world economics and politics, measuring stuff like how many tons of CO2 you're saving the earth by using this or that technology will be a key driver for decision makers.
Mahmood, a few closing words from you also now. You know, when you look, what do you learn from other operations around the world when you look at how they run their logistics, their supply chain? What inspires you, and what can you share coming from the Dubai story?
Right. Dubai, we have done an online platform that has played a big role. Now, we are having an international model for it, and we are going around the ports that we are operating in. We have a very nice story to share with the audience in Latin America. People in Dominican Republic are using a system that is developed by DP World. We call it Dominican Republic Trade, or DR Trade. It's like Dubai Trade. Yes. It's a DR Trade. Basically, and it's not only the port that we operate. The port that we operate in Dominican Republic is Cosedo, but we have a neighboring port which has nothing to do with DP World. It's called Hyena. So the two ports, Hyena Port and DP World, are using a platform called DR Trade. And what does platform do? Whatever a stakeholder that interact with the port, all their interactions, their booking, their payment, their inspection, their movement, their visibility, everything is done through that platform. And we have built it that fits anybody. The shipping business is the same all over the world. So this solution can fit 90% to anywhere. I would say 10% customization and personalization. It can be in Spanish, it can be in Chinese, it can be in multi-languages, multi-currencies using Mastercard. So this system, we are coming to this world, and DP World is going to these countries with full-fledged solution. We are not only going to give you a port and run cranes and do systems, we are doing capacity building, we are doing free zone operations, dry cargo, we are doing systems and digital solutions. So we come and give you a game changer, a solution that will bring more trade at the end of the day and boost the economy. That's a DP World commitment to Latin America and to any part of the world that we are going.
And that's ultimately what people really want. That's the message they want to hear, and they want to see that actually happen.
Yes.
I'm leaving you the closing word on this, Paulo. We look at trends in the future. It's a complex industry out there at the moment. It might get more complex, or hopefully might get more simple, but what can we expect to come?
So I know time's up very quickly. I hope to make Mahmood's dream come true. At the next GBF, we present our joint solution as to how we not only digitize the port, the transfer of funds within a port, but the most important thing, which is the biggest challenge, is how do you connect all the different silos of information across the world. I think that is the biggest challenge to global supply chain management is today. It's all in silos. How do you break those silos by connecting the data safely and securely?
Super. Well, thank you all so much. As I say, very engaging, informative, some inspiration there, and some, I think, letting us know we have a lot more to do. If people need to catch up and they need to stay calm, keep this momentum going. So thank you so much. Mauricio from Protekto, Mahmood from Dubai Trade, thank you so much, and Paulo from Mastercard. And to our audience, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well done.
We work
Super.
out?